Hello, Safina here, Life Navigator. I'm here with Tony Pike. He is a master survivalist. He's founder of Ancient Wisdom Survival School. He's been aired on Discovery Channel's Bushcraft Build-Off. He has trained numerous survivalists all across the world, and he is known for being one of the most expert survivalists in North America. He's traveled all over to Hawaii, numerous states, and just really sheds his knowledge on the primitive skills that most of us has lost in our modern society. And so I'm just bringing him here to kind of get his point of view on how we can incorporate nature into our modern society and continue some of that ancient wisdom that he's so knowledgeable about. So, Tony, do you just want to give us a little tidbit on kind of what started you on this journey and what led you to found Ancient Wisdom Survival School?
Sure. Well, growing up as a small boy in Missouri, we were very self-reliant. We grew our own food in the garden. We hunted for most of all of our meat. And my father had an interest in Native Americans' lifestyle and arrowheads. And one day he took me arrowhead hunting, and I picked up a really nice, I didn't know what it was at the time. I thought it was an airy head. Of course, every flint chip tool was an arrowhead to me back then, and to a lot of people before a lot of the knowledge was out about what they were really used for. Come to find out later on, it was a knife. But I was just fascinated with that rock, and I would pick it up and try to figure how on earth did they chip this stone into this beautiful tool. And I was fascinated with the Native Americans' lifestyle, that they could harness everything that they needed, or harvest everything they needed from the landscape for all their life needs. And I thought, how wonderful that would be to not have to have a 40-hour-a-week job and to just live off the land. So from the time I was a small child, I started studying all these skills. I wanted to learn how they grew their crops, how did they tan their hides, how did they make their clothes, how did they make their weapons, and hunting tools, traps, you name it. So that started my long journey. Gosh, I'm not going to say how many years ago that was. Doing that and being raised as a just a self-reliant type of household where I was constantly hunting as a child, trapping, fishing, you name it. If it had anything to do with the outdoors, I was a part of it. Running trot lines and frog hunting, you name it. If there was a season for it, we hunted it and we ate it. In those days, I hardly ate any store-bought food until I was probably, as far as meat, until I was probably 12 or 13 years old. I mean, literally, we were eating wild game constantly. My neighbors today, now, it's just a whole other attitude. But I would be walking around the country with a shotgun when I was probably 6, 7 years old, out hunting all by myself, and sometimes carrying a pistol too. And nowadays it's crazy because if you saw a kid doing that, you would call the cops or whatever. But back then it was just kind of a different time frame and different mindset. So it was weird growing older and seeing people that, to me, a lot of the farm kids, the small farms that used to be so prevalent, kind of went away, and then they went to bigger farms and less hunting, and more people lived a more urban lifestyle and had a different attitude. And as that, I could see that change happening as I was growing older. I kind of felt alienated, and I tried to join into the plastic lifestyle, and I just never could. I'm pretty adaptable, and I adapted well. I went to college. I did really well in college. Before. Like at the end of my sophomore year, I was doing really well. One of the top members of my class, planning on going to law school, and I just never felt completed. I didn't feel like that was the right path for me. There was something missing, and then after college, all the different jobs that I held, they were all the same way. I just never felt like I was that whole person that young Bo Pike, which Bo's my nickname, which is kind of odd. Bo is, like bow and arrow, and then Pike is a spear. So, right? So it's almost like I was born to do this stuff, from the get-go. But yeah, I was always drawn back to the woods, and when I'd get stressed out in my In the modern plastic world, I would always go out to the woods. That's where I'd find peace, and my soul would be at ease out there. So I started my journey, I guess, a long time ago, but I really didn't dive into it until, oh gosh, probably my mid-20s. I just became super fascinated with learning, and around that time frame, the internet became more accessible. It came about, and so that gave me a way to research all the things that I was curious about. And I'd stay up till 3 or 4 at night. I'd have to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'd be up on the internet trying to figure out, people had posted some articles about atlatls and hide tanning and all these different skills. So I'd stay up studying them, and then, as soon as I could on the weekend or whatever, I'd be out there playing with those skills, trying to figure out how to do this stuff. And I'd find some artifacts. I'd try to re-chip them. Like, I'd find a stone. So I would chip a stone that looked just like the artifact that I'd found, and then I would try to haft it and actually use it to tan hides and stuff like that. And it was really funny about, oh gosh, when Les Stroud, the Survivor Man, and some of the survival shows started coming out, I didn't know what to call myself at that time. I didn't have, the survival school wasn't up and going. I was teaching a lot of people my skills, but I wasn't marketing it as survival. But then these shows come out, and I see these guys, Survivor Man, and they're doing different things. And I remember one time I was sitting there with my son, and I was like, that's not going to work. There's no way that's going to work. I know, because I've been doing this for a long time. And sure enough, he fails, and I'm kind of like patting myself on the back, like I told you. Of course, they knew that I could do this type of stuff, and that's when I was kind of really like, you know what, I need to. Maybe I'll stick my hand up and say, hey, I know how to do this stuff already, because I've been studying it for my whole life, basically. So then I did that. I made myself more known across the country, and as I would travel around to different places, people could see my skills, and I found a connection with all these people who were also like me, who were into survival, and likewise they did too. And some of them found this connection way before I did, and they recognized that there's something going on here more than just the rocks and the sticks. There's a human connection that modern society is missing out on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for whatever reason, the group of primitive survivalists and primitive living skill specialists, survival guys, I don't know what it is exactly, but for whatever reason, we all share this commonality in our mentality about the flaws in modern society, and we also have maybe a clarity of vision in seeing some of the fakeness of the material world that we're being brought up in, and we all have a longing to flee from that and to get back to who we are as primal humans. So that's a lot of what I teach is. Yes, I teach the sticks and the stones and all these things, but at the end of the path, before the weekend's over with my basic students, I get into explaining to them who they really are as a primal, basic human. We're not what you've been told to be. A lot of those things are used to keep you in your cage. It's to put blinders on you, and that cage is of your own making. I talk to people. Of course, I travel all over the place teaching classes and stuff like that. And people will ask me, "Gosh, or they'll come to me, Tony, you're such an inspiration. You travel all over the place and you live your life and you're enjoying it so much, and it's just great that you're doing it. And I wish I could do it." And to me, it just blows my mind. I'm like, really, what I do is not all that tough, guys. I literally open my door, walk out it, and go get in my vehicle. And I go, and I live, I go see things, do things. I do what I want to do because I recognize my father died a few years ago, and I recognize, hey, our time here is limited. And we need to be making the most of it every day. And not just of the day for ourselves, but also of our personal interactions with everybody that we come across. So I went through this, this phase where I was crushed. My dad was everything to me, so many stories that I could get in and tell you what a wonderful man he was. But when that big part of my life went away, I was kind of reaching to try to find who I was, and also falling right into exactly who I was, and recognizing that all of those other factors that I had used to think was a big influence in my life wasn't at all. And the path that I was supposed to be on was the path that I had been on and am on now. So it's like every chance that I get to go teach, most times I like to pray about it. Am I supposed to go here? And I typically, lots of times I'll get the answer immediately. Like I may get a phone call immediately. Hey, you're coming to do the thing. I'm like, okay, well, there's my answer. Thank you. Other times I don't have the answer, and I wait for the sign. And when it comes to me, I go. And so then I feel like my life is, and my travels are divinely inspired. And when I go to these places, I wonder because I really value and treasure each personal interaction that I have with everybody. Is this trip designed to teach me and grow me to be a better Tony Pike than what I was before? Or am I sent to be a messenger to somebody along the way? Or am I being sent to teach somebody a particular skill that they will need or that they will pass on to somebody else? So I take every moment with a lot of weight in my life. I try to wake up excited, thinking about this huge task that I've been given, and respect for the situation that I'm in, and have a lot of gratitude, and try to be, even, we all go through different moods and seasons in our life, and even when I'm down, I try to be up for the people that are around me. I try to uplift those around me. As I move forward into these situations, like when I go across the country and I'll teach somebody, oftentimes I find, it may be at the end of my trip. I may be on the road for 2 months or 3 months, and I've taught all these different skills to a bunch of different people, and then I'll sit down with a person and have a little conversation, and oftentimes I don't realize that conversation at that particular time was, in my opinion, the reason why I was sent there. But then later on, sometimes information comes to me that, oh, I didn't know this person was thinking about killing themselves last week, and sometimes I give them that little kernel, I plant that seed in their life of inspiration and hope, and putting them back on the path that they're supposed to be on.
So you see a lot of just how you how you show up affects other people often. And so then being kind of centered for yourself, to be grounded and in tune with yourself and confident with yourself, is what kind of shines through for other people. And then you were also mentioning then too in some of your sessions that you use nature to kind of help people find their centered, not only their centered pathway, but then their centered strength. So even if it's somebody who's really struggling, then you come along and you just you show up as being you in that optimistic aura, and then you go and you kind of give them inspiration to find it themselves. How much of nature assists you in doing that?
How much nature assists me in showing people. Well, nature gives us everything that we need if we just know how to unlock the key, unlock the secrets to obtain it. A lot of what we need isn't necessarily so much in nature, but it's also inside us. Like changing your attitude changes your whole world. I mean, literally, it's that small of a change. You can wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to have a bad day, and you'll have a bad day. You can wake up in the morning, I'm going to have a good day, and I'm going to have a great day.
And open that door and walk out and get in that truck and go do what you want.
Right? So that's, I think, where it comes full circle, that because it's not the right path for everybody to drag them out into the woods, Some people, they weren't raised in the woods. It's not familiar to them. They'll never feel comfortable there. But where they need to be comfortable is in who they are. It's just easier to explain to them who they are when all of the distraction, the flashing lights, the shiny.
I think that's the biggest thing, to just kind of get away. And I think that's one of the biggest things that nature provides is it's biological, which we are biological. And so then it kind of puts us back in tune with ourselves. Mm-hmm. And then just to not have those distractions that make you so scattered, which get you confused. And then you're just running around having no idea what to do. That I think that's one of the biggest things that nature really helps provide. And so I'm sure, have you like experienced where then some people who maybe like they're not really into nature, but they just come out and the lack of distractions, just you see kind of like a light bulb go off with them and like a new kind of awareness.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen people go through great transformations, after coming through even just a weekend course with me. And I've seen people go through a big transformation after, and I don't want to sound prideful or proud. Well, I guess I am proud of it, but it's not me that's doing it. I'm just the messenger. But I like to show people a different perspective. And like you said, to get them away from all those distractions. There's only so many things that are needed for life. I mean, we need food, we need water, we need shelter, we need love. Other than that, what else is there? All the other stuff is it's garbage. It's BS. People right now, right now there's rich people that are pissed off that they don't have an extra $1 million, and there's poor people that are super happy, because they got their family and everybody loves them. And really, you think about it, the average American today lives like way better than the kings lived 200 years ago. So it's all perspective. That's my main goal, is to change their perspective. If I get them out in the woods, strip them down, not literally, but sometimes, strip them down to their core primal human. And you'll hear people like David Holliday, David Westcott, the guys that are big with Rabbit Stick, Winter Count, Joshua, Sage. They talk about the layers. The human character is like an onion, and there's many layers to it. And when you strip down those layers at the core, who we are, the primal human, we have basic needs, we have basic emotions, and all of that other stuff just distracts from the big picture and the perspective. So nature is a good avenue for me to get people to stand in a different place than what they've been accustomed to standing, to look back on where they were and to see those things that they didn't see. So that's my main, and that's not something that I created or did. It's just what I see from being the guy that's out there looking in.
So you kind of get to go away a lot and kind of leave the urban lifestyle. But what if somebody who's kind of a little bit more stuck or really working in the urban lifestyle, how would you suggest bringing in that aspect of nature into their life in the urban lifestyle?
Well, I'd say, of course, depending on to what extent your time is managed, I'd say that the first thing that people need to recognize is that time is their most valuable commodity on this planet. And those distractors that, you got to get this extra, couple hours in this week so that you can make that payment on your truck or your house and stuff like that. And those are important, but I would suggest to them to not be so focused on making that payment to the extent that they're sacrificing their life to do that, and to take and make a little extra time to get out into nature, to completely remove themselves from that situation and the strife and the struggles of their daily life, and to reflect upon the week, or to just to completely get out there and just completely clear their head of all of those things, and to just look at nature and to examine it, the rocks, the dirt, the sand, the plants. A buddy of mine told me one time, it's pretty interesting. He said, everything that we need is within our reach. And I thought, and he used this, he said, and specifically, some people are taking it to the extent that every single thing that they need at any time is within their reach. And I've really pondered on that over the last 20 years. Gosh, how could that be? I mean, literally. Does that mean, what if I needed food? Is there food right here? Have you ever sat and looked at everything around you? People in modern society do not do that. We drive to work. We don't know who was in that car or what was on that sign or anywhere around us. But when you go into nature, especially if you take off your shoes, and that would be one of the good ways to encourage somebody to slow down and to take a look. That's the primal human is supposed to walk barefoot. We're supposed to observe everything around us. People, a good buddy of mine, Bo Brown, told me about, it's probably 8 or 10 years ago, something that really changed my life. He was talking to a lady who wanted to go to town to get a salad. She didn't have any food at her house. She was going to drive to town to get a salad. And I think I told you this story. So he was contemplating this whole situation. She lives 5 miles from town. She's going to go get in her car that was made in Japan. with tires from South America, copper from who knows where, parts assembled in Canada and Mexico, with oil from Saudi Arabia. It's hard to tell where the steel came from, China possibly. All kinds of effort and man hours went into making this car and to make it move down the highway. She goes to town to the Walmart to buy a head of lettuce that was raised in California, that was shipped here on a semi that was the same way, built from man hours and resources that came from all over the planet, with all of this carbon footprint of all these people moving, people spinning their wheels basically, so that she could eat a watered down version of lettuce. The very same lettuce, wild lettuce, grows in her yard. And she walked across it to get in that car to go to town because she had the perspective that only good food comes from the store. And medicine doesn't exist out in out in the woods, or good high quality nutritious food don't exist out in the wild, but it does. So we got to look at our paradigm, how we see the world, our perspective, and we've got to make a change at the core of a large number of Americans to grow, I think, as a species and as a country, and to grow back together and to live a more harmonious nature, both with ourselves, with our family, our friends, our community, and with nature. But it's just so hard to do that when so many people are caught up in that hamster wheel, trying to get to work, got their blinders on. They don't see what's beside them or what they're walking on or whose toes they're stepping on to get to what they think is the most important goal in their life, and it's not. That's the thing that's killing them, And until people can slow down and take a walk out in the woods and free their minds from those stressors and things, material possessions, they're never going to change their perspective. Until they get in that car and take that trip they'd always talked about going. Don't wait, folks. Get in your car and go do it. You start living your life like you may not be here next year, because you may not be. And if you're not here next year, think about it. What's tomorrow worth to you? Is tomorrow worth that paycheck that you'll make? Are you going to make $150 tomorrow? Are you going to make $300 tomorrow? What if you only had 5 days? What's that day worth to you? There's no price of what your life is worth. If you only had 2 days, I would not take $1 million for that day for anything. I would go experience that day, and I would love everybody that I could. Try to be a positive influence in everybody's life that I could, and I would try to enjoy that day as the best I could. And so when you start having those types of attitudes, then the world will start opening doors for you. The things that you needed will start coming to you.
Be in reach.
Yeah, people literally, they will be attracted to your energy, your positivity, and they will open the doors. And like when I travel, I can put a post on Facebook. Hey folks, I'm traveling through whatever state, anybody in Tennessee, Arizona, wherever, and I'll have 10 or 15 people. Sure, Tony, yeah, come and stay.
Yeah, it's a different kind of community, because even still, you go to New York, there's so many people, yet everyone's putting their headphones in, nobody's connecting. But then to have that compassion, I think, is a huge difference, because then you learn to have compassion towards yourself. If you can feel that with others, but it starts within yourself, but to have a community to where it's genuine and really appreciative. I think we lack a lot of appreciation in our modern society, of even just appreciation of what your day is worth to you, what your time is worth, who you spend it with. It's just so absent that then everybody's just in a awestruck of an end point rather than what's around them. Like even a lot of hikers will come out to nature and they just go and they're just waiting until they get to the end and they're playing their radio and they miss all the flowers, and you could probably put something snazzy on the trail and they wouldn't even notice it. So I think the awareness of that, but awareness of yourself to then feel that appreciation towards other people, is what really creates that community, to where then, yeah, you can just travel, and even if you don't see somebody for several years, they'll just pop up and it'll be in reach, and it's all because you're in alignment with yourself, and that's kind of what is meant for you, and things just start happening because you know what you are here to do, you know what you are passionate about, and you're striving for that, and you're taking the action to actually go forth to it. You're praising yourself in doing that, because a lot of people deprive themselves of, I know, like, I would like to do this. I would love to live the life that you do, but I'm going to self-sabotage and punish myself, and no, I have to go to this job and be miserable. Yeah, it's very paradoxical.
But yeah, and then to reward myself for going to this job and being miserable, what am I going to do tonight? I'm going to go home and smoke cigarettes and drink a bunch of beer and destroy my lungs and my kidneys and my liver.
Because I don't want to think about the terrible job that I just came from.
and people don't want to admit this, but humans are really simple. I mean, obviously we're not plants. So I say that we're animals. Some people will debate and have issues with that, but we are. I mean, as far as what I understand an animal is, we're really simple animals. We're not near as intelligent as we think that we are. And until people start to recognize that and to humble themselves, you can't be lifted up until you humble yourself.
Absolutely.
So we all see the world through our own perspective, our own lens, and that lens is made up of our past experiences, and people that have been in our life and different things like that. And some of those filters on our perspective, our rose-colored glasses, I think are somewhat manipulated by the powers that be and by the system. Like capitalism wants you to keep up with the Joneses. Jump through this hoop over here to get this shiny. Oh, that shiny is outdated now because now there's new shiny for the next year. Now you need to jump through this one. And, oh, hey, now biking is the fad. So everybody's got to be like the rest of everybody, like the rest of the Joneses, and be on the biking fad.
Yeah. I think there's like reason to then, okay, yeah, you can work towards something and you can have like a nice lifestyle if that's a desire of yours, but I think to be in alignment with it, because a lot of people will go and, oh, do the fad, but is that really in tune with them? And I think that's where a lot of the disconnect comes from, of they're just doing it because everyone else is doing it. Mm-hmm. And then by the end of the day, you're kind of more burnt out, you're not really fulfilled. Yes, you can reach a nice, what people will find to be like a lavish lifestyle, but as long as it's in alignment with you and you got there in a way that was in alignment, I think that's where the huge difference is, because you'll see a lot of millionaires who are just rotting away and miserable, and then like you said, people who don't have anything but they're extremely happy. So to bring in the values, but then to remember what your intention for it is and to make sure that it's in alignment with yourself. I think that's where a lot of people get in the disconnect, and that's where then they get too far on the hamster wheel and then get themselves in trouble.
Well, and fad chasing, I'm not saying that that's bad, because people should be encouraged to do a lot of different things to find that thing that it is that they like. Maybe what really is good medicine for your soul, may not be for me, and you may not find it unless you're one of the fad chasers. But then you got to find it. When you recognize it, don't move away from it. Say, this is who I am, and I don't care what the Joneses think, whether they like how I dress or what I do. Just go ahead and be that person. Be the best you can be. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, I try to explain it to people, like we're all like race cars, right? Not necessarily race cars, but we're like an automobile. There's four-wheel drive trucks, and there's Corvettes. And a lot of us are a Corvette out in a muddy field, or a four-wheel drive truck that's on a racetrack. And until we get on our right track that we're supposed to be on, then we're never going to experience our full potential. So it's okay to be you, but you got to find yourself before you can figure out who you are. So go find yourself.
I love it.
And smile and try to help others find their self along the way.
Yeah, because I always say, let your love shine and just be your bright, brilliant self that you were meant to be. But thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom on that and giving us great insight. It was a really wonderful conversation. But do you just want to let people know how they could possibly get a hold of you if they're interested in any of your classes, or just kind of checking in with you just to continue some of your wonderful wisdom with us?
Sure. Well, you can find me on Facebook. That's how I do a lot of my
so
communications.
Tony Pike on Facebook.
Yeah, Tony Pike. I have a couple of profiles. You'll see my ugly mug on there. Just see a little better. I also have a page called Ancient Wisdom Survival School. It's on Facebook. I have a web page, ancientwisdomsurvivalschool.com. I have a YouTube channel, which I have not been very active on lately because I had some technical difficulties, and then my life got crazy and I haven't got back to it. But you can find me in any of those places. Thank God for the wonderful world that we live in and all the technology that we do have. I'm definitely not an anti-technology guy.
You just got to find that right harmonic combination.
Absolutely. But yeah, I'd be happy to have. I love making new friends. I love sharing what I know. I love having others come to my presence and sharing what they know with the rest of the group, so that everybody can grow. And I'd like to offer everybody a warm welcome to reach out and contact me and come and share this wonderful journey with me.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tony. And like I said before, always let your love shine. So until next time, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.